I knew we were in deep trouble when I walked into the server room Monday morning and heard nothing but dead silence. No cooling fans humming, no hard drives spinning, no network switches blinking their usual green lights. That room had been my domain for 9 years. The nerve center where I kept the financial pulse of Mountain Ridge Transport Solutions running smooth as a diesel engine on fresh oil. Without me, 8,500 truck drivers across 6 states don't get their paychecks. When truckers don't get paid, they don't just file complaints. They park their rigs and shut down the highways. I'm Garrison Wheeler, but everyone calls me Tank, 47 years old, and I've been the lead network administrator here since this company was running half the routes it does now. I manage the back-end systems for everything from long-haul freight drivers in Denver to local delivery crews in Salt Lake City. It's not glamorous work, but it's essential work. And I know every circuit board and cable connection in this building like the back of my weathered hands. Let me tell you something about trucking payroll. It's not like calculating wages for office workers who punch a time clock and go home. These drivers work 14-hour shifts, cross state lines where tax rates change every few miles, haul hazardous materials that pay premium rates, and deal with Department of Transportation regulations that would make a tax lawyer's head spin. They deserve every penny they earn, and they deserve to get it on time. The system I built and maintain isn't some fancy cloud-based solution that looks good in PowerPoint presentations. It's a fortress built on rock-solid SQL databases, custom integration scripts, and 9 years of patches and upgrades that I've applied with the precision of a master mechanic rebuilding a Peterbilt engine. I know every potential failure point, every workaround, every quirk that could bring the whole operation crashing down. When Colorado changed their fuel tax calculations last year, I rewrote the entire surcharge module in 4 days while surviving on energy drinks and determination. When the DOT updated their hours of service tracking requirements, I built the compliance monitoring system from scratch, working through the weekend while classic rock played on my workshop radio. You want to know how complex this gets? Try calculating cross-border pay for a driver who picks up a load in Utah Monday morning, delivers in Wyoming Tuesday, deadheads to Montana Wednesday, then finishes the week hauling equipment back to Colorado. Each state has different tax withholdings, different DOT regulations, different fuel surcharge rates, factor and hazmat pay differentials, equipment lease deductions for owner-operators, and federal prevailing wages for government contracts. Beverly's AI platform was about to meet reality. And reality doesn't care about your machine learning algorithms, but corporate headquarters doesn't see complexity. They see an old system that needs modernizing, and they see me as the guy blocking progress. That's where Howard Morrison comes in. Howard's the CEO, and more importantly, he's got family complications that were about to become my problem. 3 months ago, Howard married his second wife, bringing along her daughter, Beverly Miller Morrison. Beverly's 26, fresh out of Wharton Business School with an MBA and a head full of ideas about disrupting traditional industries. She's one of those people who thinks every business problem can be solved with artificial intelligence and buzzwords like digital transformation and operational efficiency. She's never spent a day in a truck cab, never had to explain DOT regulations to a frustrated driver, never watched a family man worry about making his mortgage payment because some computer glitch delayed his paycheck. The meeting happened on a Thursday. Howard called me into his office along with Janet Powell from HR. Janet's been here almost as long as me, but she's always been more concerned with protecting the company than protecting the employees. She had that nervous energy of someone delivering bad news while trying to smile. Howard's office overlooked the truck maintenance bay, but I doubt he ever actually watched the mechanics work. He was scrolling through his tablet when I walked in, making me wait while he finished whatever urgent business required his attention. Tank, Howard said, not looking up from his screen. We're restructuring the IT department, moving toward a more efficient, cost-effective model. I settled into the chair across from his desk. What does that mean for fleet operations? That's the exciting part. Howard finally looked at me with the kind of smile that insurance salesmen practice in mirrors. I want you to meet my stepdaughter, Beverly. She's developed an incredible AI-powered solution that's going to revolutionize how we handle driver payroll. Here's the thing about family businesses. Blood relations trump competence every single time. I'd seen it happen at other companies, but I thought our operation was too critical for that kind of foolishness. I was wrong. Beverly Miller Morrison walked in like she owned the building, which through family connections She basically did. She was wearing a business suit that probably cost more than most drivers make in a week, carrying a laptop like it contained the secrets of the universe. "Hi, Tank," she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "I've been analyzing your processes, very thorough, but also very manual. I think we can optimize significantly." The way she said manual made it sound like I was still using punch cards and magnetic tape. "Optimize how?" I asked, though I could feel where this conversation was heading. Verly opened her laptop and started clicking through screens with the confidence of someone who'd never watched a critical system fail at 2 a.m. "I've developed a comprehensive trucking management platform using advanced AI algorithms. It's cloud-based, it's intuitive, and it can handle all the calculations you're currently doing with those legacy SQL databases." I stared at her for a long moment. "AI? You want to run payroll for 8,500 truck drivers with artificial intelligence?" "Not just any AI," Beverly said, getting defensive. "This uses machine learning, predictive analytics, automated compliance monitoring. It's like having a database, but smarter. That's what they always say when they want to replace something that actually works with something that sounds impressive in board meetings. I've been in this business long enough to know that smart systems usually work great until they don't, and when they fail, nobody understands what went wrong. I looked at Howard, hoping to see some recognition of how dangerous this was. "Is this serious?" "It's innovation," Tank, Howard said, leaning back in his executive chair. "Beverly's platform can reduce processing time by 40% and cut our IT overhead substantially." There it was, cut our IT overhead. Translation: they could fire me and pay Beverly a fraction of my salary. I'd watched this movie at other companies. Young hotshot comes in promising revolutionary solutions. Experienced employee gets shown the door. 6 months later, they're begging the old guy to come back and clean up the mess. "Payroll runs Friday," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Today's Thursday. If you're planning to switch systems, you need to understand what you're dealing with." I started listing the complications on my fingers. We've got .hours of service compliance tracking, fuel card reconciliation that cross-references GPS data with purchase records, multi-state CDL verification, equipment lease calculations for 2,300 owner-operators, hazmat pay differentials based on cargo classifications. Beverly was nodding like she understood, but I could see her eyes glazing over. She thought she comprehended trucking because she'd read case studies in business school. "I've accounted for all those variables," she interrupted. "My AI system includes regulatory databases and automated compliance calculations." Regulatory databases. The Montana DOT alone has 400 different violation codes with penalty structures that change based on vehicle class, cargo type, and driver history. The union contracts have overtime rules that would confuse a Supreme Court justice. "Beverly," I said, trying to keep condescension out of my voice, "have you ever calculated cross-border fuel surcharges for a hazmat load?" "I've studied the regulations," she replied. "Studying and implementing are different things. You know what happens when you get DOT compliance wrong? Federal audits? They can shut down our operating authority and fine us for every violation going back 3 years. Howard waved dismissively. "We'll have oversight procedures. Beverly's system includes error detection. Error detection in AI algorithms, right? Like machine learning was going to catch it when some dispatcher in Boise enters incorrect cargo codes and Beverly's smart system calculates hazmat pay using standard freight rates for 200 drivers. Tank, Janet finally spoke up. "We'll need you to provide Beverly with all necessary passwords and documentation for a smooth transition." Documentation? I almost laughed. Most of the critical processes existed in custom integration scripts I'd written over 9 years. The real knowledge wasn't documented anywhere. It was in my head, earned through late nights fixing problems that textbooks never mentioned. I know that the fuel card system in our Phoenix terminal has a glitch where it double charges transactions after midnight, but only on weekends and only if the network traffic is heavy. I know that the union contract for refrigerated freight has a temperature monitoring clause that nobody else remembers. But if you don't account for it, drivers don't get their equipment maintenance bonuses. Beverly doesn't know any of that. She's got her shiny AI platform with its machine learning algorithms and predictive models, but she's never had to explain to a single father why his paycheck shows negative earnings because some calculation went sideways. "When's my last day?" I asked. "Friday," Howard said. "After the payroll run, we want to ensure continuity, and if there isn't continuity," Beverly jumped in again. "There will be. I've tested my platform extensively on what data? Sample data sets from the HR system plus modeling scenarios. Sample data, modeling scenarios. She'd tested her revolutionary trucking solution on pretend numbers. It was like testing a semi-truck by driving a toy car around a parking lot. I stood up, my knees creaking the way they do when you've been sitting too long, or when you're about to make a decision that'll either destroy you or vindicate you completely. All right then, let's see how your AI handles the real world. That's the attitude we need, Howard said, already looking back at his tablet. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back to Beverly. One piece of advice. She looked up from her laptop, probably expecting some technical tip about database connections. When your system crashes, I said, and it will crash, remember that 8,500 families depend on those paychecks for rent and groceries. That might help you prioritize your debugging. The expression on her face told me she still didn't get it. She thought this was just data processing. She had no idea she was about to be responsible for people's livelihoods. I didn't argue anymore. Sometimes experience is the only teacher that matters. And Beverly was about to get an education no MBA program provides. The next 2 days felt like watching a train wreck in slow motion. I spent Thursday and Friday doing exactly what they asked, documenting procedures and creating user guides. But here's the thing about complex systems that have evolved over nearly a decade. You can't document institutional knowledge. You can't write down the instinct that tells you something's wrong when the numbers look right, but feel off. Beverly shadowed me those 2 days, taking notes on her laptop and asking questions that revealed how little she understood about real-world trucking operations. Why do you manually verify fuel surcharge calculations? She asked Friday morning as I ran through pre-payroll checks. Because the fuel card processing system has been corrupted since 2018, I explained. It shows correct transaction amounts, but about 5% of the location codes are wrong. If you don't catch it, drivers hauling loads through high-tax states get charged low-tax state rates. Can't we just fix the processing system? It's managed by a third-party vendor with a government contract. We work around it. She made a note on her laptop. I could see her typing fix fuel card system like that was something she could accomplish with a phone call. Friday afternoon, Beverly felt confident enough to start importing live data into her AI platform. I watched her upload payroll files from our 47 terminals across 6 states. The system immediately started lagging. It's just processing, she said, clicking refresh, while her AI churned through 8,500 driver records. But I could see what was happening. Her machine learning algorithms were hitting logical conflicts because she didn't understand how DOT regulations cascade. When you've got federal hours of service rules, state tax codes, and local union contracts that can all apply to the same driver, you can't just run everything through pattern recognition. You need conditional logic that checks multiple criteria in a specific sequence. Beverly, I said carefully, you might want to test that on a smaller dataset first. It'll stabilize, she replied, but I could hear uncertainty creeping into her voice as her laptop's cooling fan started running at maximum speed. My phone started buzzing around 9:30 a.m. Text from Neil Harper, one of the fleet mechanics. Tank. Beverly's system says I drove 847 hours last week and my paycheck is $2,200 and $400 Did I break physics or did the computer break math? Then another text from Glenn Peterson in our Salt Lake terminal. Dude, according to this AI, I make $340 an hour as a delivery driver. I wish. By 10:30 a.m., my phone was lighting up like a Christmas tree. Drivers from across our territory were checking the employee portal, and nothing made sense. Social Security numbers were getting mixed up with equipment ID numbers. Job classifications were scrambled. Long-haul drivers were listed as office clerks. Local delivery guys were showing up as executives. The best one came from Rodriguez Martinez, a supervisor in our Denver hub. Tank, my pay stub says I worked 3,247 hours this pay period and earned $45,000. Did I discover time travel, or did the AI discover stupid? I could picture exactly what had happened during Beverly's data import. She'd mixed up the column headers. Equipment ID numbers were being used as hours worked, and hours worked were being treated as hourly rates. Her AI was trying to calculate wages using Social Security numbers as multipliers. But the real disaster was still coming. The weird numbers in the employee portal were just the warm-up act. The main event would happen at 11 a.m. when the bank tried to process Beverly's payroll file. At 10:45 a.m., my phone rang. Janet from HR, her voice tight with panic. Tank, we need to talk. Beverly's payroll file is showing some irregularities. Irregularities. According to her AI calculations, we owed the IRS $1.8 million in tax withholdings this pay period, but we'd only collected $240,000 from driver paychecks. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the truck, listening to Janet explain how Beverly's AI platform had created what amounted to a mathematical black hole. Also, Janet continued, the bank is questioning why we're trying to direct deposit $23,000 to a part-time dispatcher in Boise, while simultaneously deducting $18,000 from a veteran driver's pay for something called algorithm optimization fees. Has anyone told Howard yet? He's in meetings. Beverly said she could resolve it. Famous last words. I'd heard them from every overconfident rookie who thought they could fix a crashing system with hope and determination. Janet, you might want to interrupt those meetings. By 1 p.m., Mountain Ridge Transport wasn't a trucking company anymore. It was ground zero for a technological disaster. The bank had rejected Beverly's payroll file so hard it probably set off their fraud detection alarms. According to their automated response, we were attempting to transfer invalid amounts to non-existent accounts using corrupted routing data. The employee portal had crashed under the weight of 8,500 drivers trying to understand why their pay stubs looked like they'd been calculated by a malfunctioning slot machine. Some guys were showing overtime rates of $400 an hour. Others had negative salaries and somehow owed the company money for the privilege of working. But the real fireworks started when the Teamsters got involved. Roland Big Rig Martinez has been representing truck drivers for 23 years. He's built like a linebacker, talks like a mechanic, and has zero tolerance for corporate nonsense. When his members don't get paid, Roland doesn't send polite emails. He shuts things down. By 2 p.m., Roland was standing on a loading dock outside our main terminal with a bullhorn, and trucks were lining up behind him. Mountain Ridge Transport thinks they can experiment with working people's paychecks. His voice echoed across the yard. If they can't figure out how to pay us, maybe we should stop working for them. The wildcat strike spread faster than bad weather reports. Salt Lake Terminal shut down first, then Denver, then our Boise hub. By 3 p.m., every Mountain Ridge facility in 6 states had gone quiet. 8,500 drivers sitting in their cabs, posting videos on social media, calling local news stations. The footage was beautiful in a catastrophic way. Aerial shots of idle truck stops, interviews with drivers holding pay stubs that defied mathematical logic. Union representatives explaining to reporters how a company that moves freight across the western United States couldn't figure out basic payroll. My phone kept buzzing with updates from Curtis and other employees still inside the building. Beverly locked herself in the conference room. Curtis texted. She's been trying to debug her AI for 4 hours, but every time she fixes one error, 3 more appear. Another message. Howard's been screaming at tech support all afternoon. Apparently Beverly accidentally deleted the original payroll data when she tried to reload it. That made me chuckle. Of course she did. When you're panicking and something's not working, the natural impulse is to start over. But when you start over in AI systems without proper version control, you lose everything. Beverly had just erased the only copy of the biweekly payroll data. The news coverage was brutal. Channel 7 ran a segment titled AI Disaster Leaves Thousands of Truckers Without Pay. Channel 4 did a feature on when technology goes wrong, a trucking company's payroll nightmare. The local paper's headline read Computer Chaos Cripples Regional Transport Giant. But the piece that really got attention was when Channel 9 interviewed Big Eddie Thompson, a 30-year veteran driver who'd been scheduled to pick up his daughter from college that weekend. I've been driving trucks since before these computer people were born, Eddie said, holding up his incomprehensible pay stub. Never missed a payment on my truck. Never missed my daughter's tuition. But according to this AI thing, I owe the company $3,400 for working 60 hours last week. How's that supposed to work? The interviewer asked what he planned to do. Same thing every trucker does when management screws us, Eddie replied. Park the truck and wait for them to come to their senses. Tuesday morning brought no relief. The Department of Transportation had opened an investigation into our compliance violations. The bank had frozen our operating accounts pending fraud review. 3 major clients had canceled contracts, worried about our ability to deliver freight reliably. Howard's second wife had reportedly taken Beverly and left for her sister's house in Phoenix, unable to handle the media attention and angry phone calls from drivers' families. The union was now talking about expanding the strike to solidarity actions with other Teamsters locals. Ports in Long Beach were discussing whether to honor our freight pickups. This wasn't just a payroll problem anymore. It was a company-threatening crisis. That's when my phone rang again. Tuesday morning, I was sitting on my porch drinking coffee and reading news articles about our payroll crisis when my phone rang. Howard Morrison. His voice sounded like he'd been eating gravel. "Tank, we need to talk." "Morning, Howard. Saw you on the news last night. Nice interview. I especially liked the part where you blamed the problems on temporary technical difficulties during a planned system upgrade." "Cut the jokes. The Department of Transportation is opening an investigation. The union is threatening a class action lawsuit. The bank froze our operating accounts because Beverly's AI made their fraud detection system think we'd been hacked. Sounds challenging. I need you to come back. Consulting basis. Name your price. I'd been waiting for this call since Friday afternoon. $15,000 cash up front, plus a new contract at double my previous salary. Done. I'm not finished. I want a public apology from you and Beverly posted on the company website, admitting that the payroll problems were caused by premature implementation of an inadequate system." Long pause. "Fine. And one more thing, I report directly to the CTO now, not to operations. I'm done dealing with people who think AI can replace institutional knowledge. Whatever you need, Tank. Just fix this mess." I drove back to the terminal Wednesday morning. The parking lot still had union representatives camped out, but they waved when they saw my truck, Tank. Roland Martinez walked over as I was getting out. "Tell me you're here to save our asses." "Working on it, Roland. You should see movement by Thursday morning." "What about back pay for the time we've been sitting here?" "Every penny, plus overtime for scheduled shifts." I walked into the building like I owned it, because for the next few days I basically did. The server room felt like coming home after a long deployment. I fired up my workstation and started digging through the wreckage Beverly's AI had created. It was worse than I'd expected. She hadn't just corrupted the payroll data. She'd managed to lock database tables, create recursive loops in the tax calculations, and somehow convince the system that we employed 23,000 people named Ixero. The real challenge wasn't the technical work, though that was complex enough. It was rebuilding everything from backup transaction logs and archived data that Beverly didn't even know existed. I had to trace through 9 years of custom modifications, integration patches, and workaround solutions that existed nowhere except in my head. I worked through the night, fueled by energy drinks and the satisfaction of watching clean data flow through properly configured systems. By 4 a.m., I was running test calculations on sample payrolls. By 5 a.m., I had a complete payroll file ready for validation. By 6 a.m. Thursday morning, I transmitted the corrected data to the bank. The electronic transfer went through perfectly. 8,500 drivers would wake up to find their correct paychecks waiting, plus compensation for the strike days and overtime pay for missed scheduled shifts. By 7 a.m., my phone was buzzing with messages from drivers checking their bank accounts. "Tank, it's Eddie Thompson. Just wanted to say thanks, brother. My account shows everything correct, plus extra for the days we sat out. You saved my daughter's tuition payment. Rodriguez here. Whatever they're paying you, it's not enough. You're a lifesaver. Big Rig Martinez wants to buy you a steak dinner. Name the place." Thursday afternoon, I walked into Howard's office. He looked like he'd aged a decade in a week, but there was relief in his eyes for the first time since this crisis started. "It's done," I said. "Everyone's been paid correctly, including compensation for the strike time." "Thank you," he said quietly. "I owe you an apology. I should have listened when you warned us about the complexity." "Where's Beverly?" "Reassigned to strategic partnerships." Turns out family connections only go so far when you cost the company $2.8 million and nearly trigger a federal investigation. "And my new office." Howard gestured toward the corner office with windows overlooking the maintenance bay. "All yours. I had them install a mini fridge and upgrade the coffee machine." That evening, I was settling into my new workspace when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but the voice was familiar. "Tank, this is Sarah, my ex-wife. We'd been divorced for 3 years, but we'd managed to stay civil for our kids' sake. I saw you on the news," she continued. "Channel 9 did a follow-up story about how you fixed everything. They interviewed some of the drivers. One guy said you were the only reason his family didn't lose their house. Just doing my job, Sarah." "No, it was more than that. I know I didn't always appreciate how much pressure you were under, how much responsibility you carried, But seeing those interviews, hearing those drivers talk about what you did, I'm proud of you, Tank. Really proud. After we hung up, I sat there for a while, looking out at the maintenance bay where night shift mechanics were servicing trucks for tomorrow's runs. My phone buzzed with a text from Curtis. Heard you got a call from the American Trucking Association. They want you to speak at their national conference about legacy system management. You're famous, Tank. Friday morning brought the official end to the crisis. The DOT closed their investigation after reviewing our corrected compliance reports. The bank unfroze our accounts. Clients started calling about resuming freight contracts. The union declared victory and ended the strike. But the real satisfaction came in the company-wide email Howard sent out to all Mountain Ridge employees. I want to publicly acknowledge that this week's payroll crisis was caused by my decision to implement an inadequate system without proper testing or consultation with our experienced technical staff. Tank Wheeler's expertise and dedication saved our company and ensured our drivers received their rightful compensation. We are fortunate to have him leading our IT operations going forward. Howard Morrison, CEO. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the bottle of craft beer I'd been saving. Through my office window, I watched trucks rolling out of the yard, loaded with freight, drivers heading back to their routes across 6 states. The familiar rhythm of a working transportation company. My computer chimed with an email from the conference organizers. Mr. Wheeler, we'd be honored to have you keynote our session on institutional knowledge versus technological innovation at this year's National Transportation Technology Summit. I opened the beer and raised it toward the window, watching the trucks disappear into the morning traffic. Sometimes experience beats innovation. Sometimes the old ways work better than the new ways. And sometimes when corporate tries to fix what isn't broken, they learn that some jobs require more than algorithms and business degrees. Here's to keeping the wheels turning and making sure working people get what they've earned. That's worth celebrating, and that's the thing about real expertise. It's not something you can download or outsource. It's earned through years of solving problems that don't exist in any manual.